Aliens. Are they real? Are they a psyop? Are they here? What do they want? Let's talk about it. Hi folks, I'm Paul, and this is my take. If you haven't noticed, there's been a lot of talk recently about aliens. A little while ago, a computer program predicted that on December 3rd and 4th of this year, the Earth was going to get invaded by aliens or something like that. And now, people all over the world are claiming to see floating lights in the sky. There's a claim that something big is happening right now. Mass sightings of UFOs, or I think they're calling them UAPs right now, has never happened like this before. But I'm skeptical. Aliens have always been a fun topic of discussion. There's something so mysterious and weird about the idea of another life form being out there. And with movies like Star Wars and Avatar and Arrival, Men in Black, I could go on, our culture has had ample opportunities to see speculative scenarios of what life might be like should we discover we're not alone in the universe. Now, I don't know if I personally ever believed in the concept of aliens, at least not in the way that they're portrayed in media as little green men from outer space that came here in flying saucers. But a few years ago, I probably would have told you I was more open to the idea of there being extraterrestrials from some distant planet. But I'm not as open to that idea as I used to be. And that's mostly because the governments of the world conveniently started talking about it all at similar times. And the things that were revealed about this topic ranged from trivial admissions like, well, yeah, UFOs do exist, we do see phenomena happen and we can't explain it, to some of the most laughable evidence like the papier-mâché looking ET that the Mexican government rolled out. It's funny when the authoritative individuals began to address this topic, giving us information that basically amounted to, aliens? Well, maybe. That's when I started to go, yeah, they're probably not real. But before I get into the interesting part of this video, I just want to preface this by saying I'm not an expert on any of this. It's just a subject that I've given a lot of thought to because I think it's really interesting, and this is just how I see it. If aliens are real, I don't think they come from the stars. I think aliens are less likely to be intergalactic, interstellar, and more likely to be interdimensional, and to a higher or lower degree, supernatural, and almost certainly malevolent. I think that if they are real, they are demonic. A lot of the material that the theory of aliens is built on comes from bits and pieces of ancient history. Carvings in stone that depict some giant creature, often from the sky, bestowing some kind of knowledge or technology to the people. But it's never entirely clear what these carvings and images are actually telling us. Some people theorize that entities gave these people the knowledge to build things like the pyramids. And isn't it interesting that on nearly every continent, we have found these massive structures that share an almost identical shape? Why might that be? Aliens? Maybe. But that alone isn't enough for me to put a ton of stock into the idea that space creatures bestowed the knowledge of how to build these structures. It's not really a complicated concept when you think about it in the simplest of building terms. Big stone on bottom, small stone on top, smallest stone on top. Make triangle shape. I guess what I'm saying is I'm not particularly surprised that people of the ancient world figured out how to stack rocks on top of each other, but the fact that these are massive, that is impressive, and I can understand how there is a lot of speculation to the idea of, well, yeah, maybe man didn't do this alone. But I find it difficult to believe that aliens would just descend onto Earth out of the goodness of their hearts to help humanity. I think if anything, aliens are demons, or Beelzebub himself, I don't know. But there's a strong correlation between theorized alien contact of the ancient world with locations that historically had a lot of spiritual darkness. Pretty much every ancient culture that surrounded these pyramid structures or had advanced engineering technology far beyond that of anything else at the time had extremely wicked religious practices. Human sacrifice is probably the highest profile example. Look up pretty much any ancient culture or religion at the time and ask if they had human sacrifice. Did the ancient Egyptians do human sacrifice? Yes. Did the ancient Aztecs do human sacrifice? Yes. Did the ancient Mayans do human sacrifice? Yes. Did the ancient Cambodians do human sacrifice? Well, they were Hindu, and their involvement in human sacrifice is pretty strongly debated by scholars. Okay, is sati an ancient Hindu practice? Yeah. Is sati human sacrifice? Yes. Okay, then yes. It might be a different kind of human sacrifice from the other ones I've mentioned, but it's still a ritualistic killing of a human. It's dark, it's bad. And it's interesting that as these wicked practices fell out of style through the introduction of religions like Christianity, Islam, or other religions that banned human sacrifice, these references to some higher intelligent creature from beyond our world seem to just fade into history. If we think about aliens as demonic entities, and the reason there seems to be such a strong correlation between potential alien contact and these ancient civilizations, I can see how this makes a considerable amount of sense. If you have a worldview like me, you believe that man is basically evil, and to get the attention of a supernatural force, it is much easier to do something tremendously evil than to do something tremendously good. And in turn, by doing evil, you attract evil. Take, for example, the Aztec Empire. There's a fair amount of evidence that they practiced some of the most insane types of human sacrifice. Tens of thousands of people were killed ritually every year. And they did this in worship to their gods. And they did this with hopes that these spiritual entities would come down and bless them with knowledge, fertility, fortune, etc. And yes, the ancient Aztecs had some very advanced knowledge of engineering. Aqueducts, sled systems, canals. It was very impressive. And how did they figure all of this out? How did they figure out how to build all of this? How did ancient societies know how to build these massive structures, these complex systems, many of which we still use today? Were they just lucky? Did they just discover these things by chance? Or did they receive this knowledge from a higher intelligence? And where did that higher intelligence come from? These are all really interesting questions to mull over, but we'll probably never get an answer. And the idea of aliens being an interdimensional demonic force makes a lot more sense to me than the idea of them being technologically advanced individuals from outer space. And that's why I'm not buying into the hubbub about the aliens right now. Because I think the idea of space aliens might be part of what shadowy entities are trying to set up in a way to control you, to strongly encourage mass amounts of people to do things that they otherwise might not. I don't think it's a coincidence that nearly every potential alien sighting that we've had in recent history has been a weird-looking flying object and really nothing more than that. As it stands right now, I am of the opinion that these flying machines are man-made. And yes, they are advanced far beyond the tech that any public would have knowledge about. And these presentations, these mass UFO sightings, I think are a way in which they can inspire curiosity of who or what might be piloting these craft. The idea of aliens comes with a lot of unknowns, because of course it does. And unknowns typically tap into fear. We have a lot of fear of the unknown. And there are nefarious forces in high positions of power who know this about humans, and will use it to get what they want. I don't know. I haven't written anything off yet, but I don't know what it would take to convince me that this isn't going to be just some massive psyop. Keep an eye out. I have a feeling things are going to get really weird in the next few years. That's all I've got for today. What do you think? Are you all in on the idea that aliens are from outer space? Do you think they're real? I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below. As always, if you enjoy my content and want to keep up with me, I would really appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. Hope you're all doing well, and I will see y'all next time.